these religions needed was magic, a holy water dispenser.
Ever think about how ancient people made stuff we can't even build today? Check out these mind-blowing ancient inventions that were way ahead of their time. Number 1, holy water vending machine. First up, let's talk about the holy water dispenser. Believe it or not, this was the world's very first coin-operated slot machine. As worshippers entered the temple, they had to wash their hands with holy water blessed by the priests. But hey, priests had better things to do than constantly bless water. So Heron devised a brilliant solution, a machine dispensing holy water on demand. Here's how it worked. You'd pop a coin into the top of the machine and voila, out came a perfectly measured cup of holy water. For the worshippers, it was like witnessing a miracle. But behind the scenes, the magic was all about clever engineering. The coin would trigger a lever, opening a valve to release the water. With this invention, Heron not only solved the priest's problem, but also created the world's first vending machine, a good 1800 years before anyone else even thought of it. Number 2, first ever rapid-fire crossbow. Alright, let's dive into a story about one of the coolest ancient weapons you've probably never heard of, the Chinese repeating crossbow. Over 2,000 years ago, China created a weapon that could rival the Kalashnikov rifle in its time. Yep, you heard that right. This wasn't your typical medieval crossbow. While medieval ones needed both hands and a lot of effort to reload, the Chinese repeating crossbow, or the Giza crossbow, was a game changer. It was designed to string the bow, place the projectile, and lower the bowstring with just one hand. The secret sauce? A magazine case filled with bolts. This bad boy could fire 7 to 10 bolts in just 15 to 20 seconds, and that's just the basic version. The upgraded model could shoot 2 or 3 bolts at once. To put it in perspective, a standard crossbow could only manage about 2 bolts per minute, and even the best archers could only fire off 10 arrows. The Giza crossbow was way ahead of its time, and we're talking about the 2nd or 3rd century AD here. This incredible piece of tech was so effective that it was still used in real battles as late as the 19th century. Number 3, first ever alarm system. Our ancient ancestors had to rely on the first light or a noisy rooster to get them up. But what if you needed to rise before all those natural wake-up calls? Believe it or not, the concept of an alarm device goes back to 427 BC. Plato, with his packed schedule of shaping modern society and philosophy, needed to be upright and early. To ensure he was always on time to enlighten his students, he had a large water clock with an alarm that sounded when it was time to wake up. Ancient Greeks from 14 to 17 BC used water clocks inspired by even older Egyptian inventions. These early timekeepers were stone vessels with sloping sides that let water drip constantly from a small hole at the base. Markings inside the vessel allowed users to track time as the water level lowered. In Plato's time, their water clock was known as a clepsydra, meaning water thief in Greek. Specifics about Plato's alarm clock are hazy, but it reportedly sounded similar to a whistling kettle. Fast forward to around 2050 BC, another Greek inventor named Ctesibius took things up a notch. He improved on the Egyptian water clocks by adding a gear-operated pointer and an alarm system that dropped pebbles onto a ringing gong at set times. The Romans later added a clock face with Roman numerals, making it look more like our modern clocks. At specific times, the pointer would push a pebble onto a bell or gong, gently waking people up. It's definitely more pleasant than the jarring alarms we have today. Despite the genius of Ctesibius's invention, it wasn't fully appreciated until about 1800 years later, when mechanical alarm clocks became popular. So next time your alarm rudely wakes you up, you know who to thank. Or not. Number 4, automated doors. Imagine ancient Greeks totally obsessed with gods and goddesses, dying to see some divine magic up close. In Alexandria during the 1st century AD, they got their wish, but not exactly how they expected. Enter Heron of Alexandria, a brilliant Greco-Egyptian engineer and mathematician who made magic happen, literally. Heron was the guy everyone called when they wanted to add some wow factor to their lives. Priests, wanting to jazz up their temples, called on Heron to give their entrances a magical makeover. Here's how he did it. The priests lit fires on altars beside the closed temple doors. Little did the worshippers know, this ignited a secret sequence of events beneath their feet. Pipes connected hidden brass pots, partially filled with water, to containers that acted as counterweights in a pulley system. As the fires heated up, the air pressure in the brass pots increased, pushing the water through the pipes into the counterweight containers. The extra weight caused these containers to descend, pulling ropes that slowly opened the doors in front front of the awestruck crowd. And to really blow their minds, Heron included a trumpet that played a fanfare as the doors opened, thanks to compressed air being released. Though it was a slow process, it was enough to dazzle the people of Alexandria, making Heron a local legend. He even installed similar automatic doors in other temples and city gates. But as people often do, they eventually decided it was easier and cheaper just to use their hands to open doors, and Heron's amazing inventions were forgotten. Astonishingly, it wasn't until almost 2,000 years later that humanity rediscovered the genius of automatic doors. So next time you walk through an automatic door, give a nod to Heron, the real MVP of ancient engineering. Number 5. Ancient navigation. It's wild to think about how navigating used to be, especially in ancient times. Imagine being a Viking, cruising the rough seas of northern Europe from around 800 AD to the 11th century. These guys had some seriously advanced ships, but even the best boats need a good navigator. So, how did they do it? In 1948, a Viking relic was found off the western shore of a Greenland fjord called Unatok. This artifact, known as the Unatok disc, was a wooden circle fragment with notches around its edge and a hole in the middle. It might look odd, but this little gadget was an early version of a compass, a sun compass to be exact. Here's the thing, the sun compass had a pin in the center that cast a shadow when the sun was out. The disc had carved lines to match different times of the year, since the sun's path changes with the seasons. Holding the disc flat, the Vikings could see where the pin's shadow hit the lines and figure out which way was north. The shadow was straight at high noon, making north super easy to find. But what about those gloomy, foggy days? Danish archaeologist Thorkild Ramsco had an idea. The Vikings might have used crystals known as Viking sunstones to find the sun. These weren't just any crystals, they were Iceland spars, a type of transparent calcite crystal. Iceland spars have a cool trick called birefringence, which splits light into two beams, creating a double image. Here's where it gets even cooler. Vikings could mark the crystal with a dot, like with charcoal, then move the spar across the sky. When the double image was equally bright, the crystal was pointing at the sun. Using this clever trick, they could work out where the shadow would fall on their sun compass and find north, even when the sun wasn't visible. Number 6. Relic Computers. It's wild to think about how much of our history is hidden beneath the waves. In 1901, archaeologists diving near the Greek island of Antikythera discovered an ancient shipwreck with a curious bronze artifact now known as the Antikythera mechanism. Initially mistaken for a corroded chunk of metal, this relic turned out to be an incredible device made over 2,000 years ago, containing 37 precisely cut gears. Experts believe this ancient gadget could track the calendar, predict eclipses, and even mark the time between the Olympic Games, functioning like a mechanical solar system model. The complexity of this device left scientists amazed, especially since similar technology didn't appear again until the 1300s. Interestingly, the ancient Egyptians also contributed to early computing with their multiplication system based on doubling and halving, similar to modern binary arithmetic. While they likely used it for practical purposes like calculating grain supplies, they inadvertently laid the foundations for the computer age we live in today. Number 7. Steam engine. Steam power usually brings to mind the Industrial Revolution, right? But guess what? It was actually a thing way back, thanks to Heron of Alexandria, the ancient tech wizard. Yep, this Greco-Egyptian brainiac came up with an early steam engine known as an eolipile, or wind ball, way back in the 1st century AD. Picture a cauldron of water heated over a fire with pipes leading to a brass sphere on an axis. As the water heated up, steam built pressure inside, and steam would shoot out of the sphere, causing it to spin around. It was like a steam-powered fidget spinner. While this could have revolutionized the world back then, folks just saw it as a cool party trick. It wasn't until the 18th century that Thomas Newcomen developed the first commercial steam engine, sparking the Industrial Revolution with steam trains, boats, and factories. So what modern tech do you think we're sleeping on today? Number 8. Ancient refrigerators. Ancient Persians created giant fridges called yakhchals around 400 BC. These ice pits stored and made ice in the desert by using underground spaces and cool night temperatures. The yakhchals had wind catchers that funneled cool air inside, while the conical structure guided hot air out. Made from a mix of clay, sand, ash, goat hair, and lime, they were perfect insulators, keeping ice cold even in the hot sun. So, next time you grab a cold drink from the fridge, remember, ancient geniuses paved the way for our modern comforts. Number 9. The Nazar Lines. Imagine giant doodles on the earth, visible only from the sky. Welcome to the Nazca Lines. Located in the Nazca Desert of southern Peru, these massive geoglyphs were crafted by the Nazca culture, which thrived from 200 BC to 600 AD. These aren't your average doodles, though. They stretch hundreds of meters and depict everything from animals and plants to humans and geometric shapes. The Nazca folks made these huge drawings by removing the top layer of soil, revealing a lighter layer underneath that stands out against the desert landscape. But why did they do it? That's the big mystery. Some theories suggest these lines had something to do with astronomy, rituals, or even water and agriculture. Today, the Nazca Lines have been a major tourist magnet and a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1994. But keeping them intact is no easy task. The delicate lines face threats from tourism and environmental factors, so preserving them requires ongoing effort. Number 10. Damascus Steel. Wootz steel is one of history's coolest mysteries. Known as the finest steel on the planet centuries ago, it was originally made in India and then shipped to Damascus, Syria, where it was crafted into legendary swords. These Damascus blades are famous for their beautiful patterns and top-notch qualities, super hard, flexible, and razor-sharp. They were so sharp, people said they could slice a feather mid-air. So what's the deal with this magical metal? To this day, no one has figured out how to replicate the original Damascus steel. The secret recipe vanished long ago. Modern Damascus blades exist, but they don't quite match up to the ancient originals. Scientists and blacksmiths alike have pored over historical texts to unlock the mystery. Some old legends claim the best swords were forged in dragon blood or enhanced with donkey urine. There were even bizarre tips involving the urine of red-headed boys or goats on a fern diet. Thanks to modern science, we now know these superstitions didn't actually help. Number 11. Non-rusting iron pillar. Even today, the Iron Pillar of Delhi baffles people not just because it exists, but because it refuses to rust. This 23-foot tall pillar stands proudly in the Qutub complex of Delhi, and it's one of the most mesmerizing metal objects on the planet. At first glance, it might look like any other pillar, but it holds secrets that make it truly special. The origin of this pillar is still a bit of a mystery, but there's an inscription in Brahmi script that says it was erected by King Chandra to celebrate a battle victory. Historians believe it was Chandra Sasantu who ruled from 375 to 415 CE, which means this pillar is over 1600 years old. This giant iron structure has been exposed to heat, dust, and cold for centuries. Normally, you'd expect it to rust away, but nope, it's still standing strong. It's a metallurgical marvel that highlights the incredible skills of ancient Indian smiths and workers from over 1,000 years ago. Number 12. Greek fire. We all know fire can be super destructive, right? Our ancestors were well aware of this too. But before napalm was even a thing, the Byzantine Empire had already cooked up a fiery weapon back in the 7th century AD, known as Greek fire. Imagine a weapon so fierce that it was nicknamed sea fire or liquid fire. This stuff was no joke. It couldn't be put out with water. In fact, some say it only got stronger when you tried to douse it. Over 1,000 years ago, this was the deadliest weapon around. Thanks to Greek fire, the Byzantines won battle after battle. No wonder they guarded its recipe like their lives depended on it. Legend has it Greek fire was invented by Callinicos, a Greek architect and engineer who escaped from Arab captors. Seeking refuge with the Byzantines, he created this deadly concoction to help them fend off invading Arab armies. The exact history is still up for debate, but one thing's for sure: Greek fire was a game changer. Even today, we don't really know what was in Greek fire. Its exact composition remains a mystery, but it was undeniably a secret weapon that played a key role in the Byzantine Empire's military success. Number 13. Pyramids of Giza. Alright, let's talk about one of the coolest and most mysterious wonders of the world. The Great Pyramid of Giza. Built way back around 4500 BC, this bad boy is proof to some serious ancient ingenuity. Ancient Egyptians had no wheels, no cranes, and only basic copper tools. Yet they managed to put together a structure that's not just massive, but also incredibly precise. Each pyramid took around 20 years to complete, and get this, they aligned it within 1/15 of a degree to the true north, south, east, and west. Yeah, that's like pinpoint accuracy without any modern tech. The Great Pyramid isn't just about size. It's about the mind-blowing precision and the crazy mathematics behind it. It's perfectly aligned with the Earth's north-south meridian and east-west parallel, making it the most aligned structure in the world. Plus, it sits right at the center of the Earth's landmass. Talk Talk about perfect placement, and here's where it gets even crazier. The proportions of the pyramid's granite coffers relate to the radius of the sun. The weight of the entire pyramid is proportional to the weight of the Earth. These details are so specific that it's no wonder some people think aliens had a hand in building them. Number 14, Battery of Babylon. This one's a real head-scratcher from ancient times. This artifact consists of 3 simple items: a copper tube, an iron rod, and a ceramic pot. These relics were discovered in the Kujut Rabu region, which is part of modern-day Iraq. Dating back to somewhere between 150 BCE and 650 AD, it's a bit of a puzzle about which era it truly belongs to. It could be the Sasanian period or the Parthian era of Persia. The real kicker here is, what on earth was it used for? One popular theory is that it was an ancient battery, potentially used for electroplating or even electrotherapy. The corrosion on the metal bits suggests they might have used an acidic solution to generate some juice. Another idea floating around is that it was simply a fancy storage jar for sacred scrolls. Imagine going through all that trouble to make an elaborate container just for some old papers. Number 15, Ancient Nanotech. Picture an ancient cup that's basically the OG version of today's nanotechnology. Yep, our ancestors were way more advanced than we give them credit for. This piece is the only complete example of a porcelain cup from way back then. But it's not just any cup, it's made from a special type of glass called daic. The magic happens when light hits this glass. In normal light, it looks like an ordinary opaque green cup, but shine some light through it, and it transforms into a stunning, transparent red. The secret behind this transformation? Tiny particles of gold and silver embedded in the glass. This ancient nanotech is so sophisticated that modern scientists still can't figure out how it was made. Number 16, Core 7. Alright, let's dive into the mystery of Core 7, this ancient Egyptian artifact that's got everyone puzzled. Over 4,500 years ago, the Egyptians left behind this perfectly round piece of rock with strange, evenly spaced lines, like the grooves on a vinyl record. Discovered near the Great Pyramids by British archaeologist Flinders Petrie, it now sits in London's Petrie Museum. Here's the crazy part. This rock is solid red granite. The Egyptians only had copper tools, which were way too soft to drill into granite. The only thing that could do the job? Diamond. Yep, if they had diamond cutting tools, our history books would need a major update. The grooves on Core 7 suggest it was drilled with a fast rotating drill, something ancient Egyptians weren't supposed to have. Imagine a modern power drill working at super high speeds. They had something even stronger. This makes us wonder if there was an advanced civilization we know nothing about. Number 17, Caltrops. These sneaky little spike traps have been causing trouble since the Roman Empire days. Back then, they called them tribulus, which sounds pretty epic. These metal devices have 4 spikes set at different angles, so no matter how you throw them, one spike always sticks up. Imagine you're a soldier on horseback or riding a chariot, charging into battle, and bam, your horse steps on one of these spikes. The horse is down, the chariot's wheel is wrecked, and now you're stuck on foot. Easy pickings for the enemy. These spikes were used by cities under attack to create a deadly barrier between their walls and the invading army. The attackers would have to cross this painful no man's land before even getting close to the city. Number 18, Petards. Ever wondered where the saying, hoisted by your own petard, comes from? It's all about medieval mishaps with a nasty little weapon called the petard. Invented by the French, these bomb-like devices were either cone-shaped or rectangular and packed with 5 or 6 pounds of gunpowder. They had a fuse called a slow match and were designed to blow holes in gates and fortifications during sieges. The petard was specifically shaped to direct most of the explosion's force towards a small target, maximizing damage. Sometimes they were even nailed to enemy gates for extra destruction. But here's where it gets interesting and dangerous. Those fuses weren't always reliable. There are plenty of stories about petards blowing up in the hands of the poor soul trying to plant them. So, hoisted by your own petard literally means getting blown up by your own bomb. Pretty wild, right? Number 19, Battering Ram. These days, when we think of battering rams, we picture cops busting down doors on TV. But the original battering rams from ancient times, those were beasts. Back in the day, armies needed some serious muscle to break through city walls and gates during sieges. The force from these logs was so strong it could crack the walls, making them easier to break down. Simple, right? But the soldiers using them were wide open to arrows and fire from the defenders. To solve this, they added protective covers to the rams that could block arrows and fire. This meant they could use the rams earlier in battles without getting hurt. These upgrades made battering rams super effective and essential for attacking cities. Eventually, things like gunpowder and cannons came along, and battering rams were no longer needed. Number 20. Ancient water marvel. The Gadara Aqueduct is like an ancient Roman version of a high-tech water system. Built around 2,000 years ago, it stretched over 170 kilometers, supplying fresh water to the city of Gadara, which is in modern-day Jordan. Imagine the Romans tackling this engineering feat without any of our modern tools. No GPS, no heavy machinery, just pure ingenuity. This aqueduct wasn't just a simple pipe. It had underground tunnels, bridges, and channels, making it a complex network that could rival any modern infrastructure. They diverted water all the way from the Yarmouk River to Gadara, ensuring the city never went thirsty. What's truly impressive is how this ancient system highlights the advanced skills of Roman engineers. Despite the limited technology of the time, they built something so durable and precise that remnants of it still exist today. It wasn't just about bringing water, it was about supporting the city's daily life and helping it flourish. So that is it for today's video. Tell us in the comments below which ancient technology attracted you the most. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We will see you in the next video.